Hey, welcome to Mama's Place Studios. This is New York City Radio, and I'm your host, Dave Leute.
We're sitting here with Sean Mannion and Carolyn Maher. Is that right?
That's pretty good, yeah.
Okay, sweet. And thanks for being here, by the way.
Thanks for having us.
Took a little few weeks to get you guys on, but
That's totally fine. In fact, I think it's almost even better, actually.
Cool.
Like the position we're in right now.
So Sean, you're primarily a filmmaker, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
Carolyn, you produce, but you do other things as well.
Mostly produce. I produce around the clock. I work for a video production company by day, and by night I produce films like Meme with Sean Mannion.
So, and that's the big one. Meme is the current project.
Mm-hmm.
And for those, tell the audience, what's that about? Meme the movie.
Meme. I mean, it's primarily about a woman who is her life not quite where she wants to be, and through this sounds a little bit pretentious, but through art she sort of finds her independence and her freedom,
mm-hmm.
and in a little bit more specific way through VHS, through an old sort of dead format. Yes, I know you guys have a particular interest in that, but through VHS she finds a way to sort of break out of the patterns that have kind of kept her down to find a level of freedom, a level of independence that she didn't have before. The character starts with being very her relationship sucks, and her work. She's a freelancer. She's a freelance graphic artist. The character, and
that's hard.
It is. Being a freelancer is hard, and if you've ever read the blog Clients from Hell, we sort of drew a little bit of inspiration from that, a little bit of inspiration from my own history of being like a freelancer and also just being in the tech world, and just clients can be a little bit weird. They can be a little bit crazy. They can ask for things that don't make any sense at all.
Yes, they can
dumb. I didn't necessarily want to put it that way.
So
some can
dumb
be
is
great,
definitely right,
but sometimes they're dumb.
Yeah,
it happens.
I think anybody who deals with clients or just has to communicate with people who work in a different industry can relate to some of the scenes in this movie. What some of the funniest scenes are the back and forth between the main character and her clients.
Mm-hmm.
They're just
the idea of finding the VHS and does she sort of come across? I don't know how much you want to give away, so
I'll give away everything.
But
I literally will.
So she finds this weird thing on a tape, and that brings her to a different place, or
yeah. What happens is, and so I'm going to go back a little bit and talk about probably 4 years ago. A friend of mine sent me a text message, a photo text message of an event poster he saw, something happening at Nighthawk Cinema here in New York, called VHS Possessed. It was going to happen right before Halloween, and it was this just sort of little mini event that was happening. I didn't totally understand what was happening, but it sounded like fun. They were going to show the Turkish version of The Exorcist,
yes.
Which there is an incredibly low budget. I can't remember what it's called, but it's an incredibly low budget version of The Exorcist. Not necessarily shot for shot, but it's pretty much just The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Incredibly cheap, really kind of shitty.
Yep.
I hope you don't mind if I swear.
No, please.
I'm prone to it. I can't not do it.
No, that's
I'm too Irish not to do it.
And
I thought that sounds interesting, and just because it's called VHS Possessed, and the thing on the poster also said that there was going to be a VCR exorcism. So I was like, well, this sounds entertaining, and I went to it, and at this thing, I learned that there are people who still collect VHS tapes, and I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah,
because I grew up with VHS. I'm not that old. I'm just on the border of 32, but I grew up with VHS, and I grew up with VCRs, and I grew up with all that stuff. And there were these guys, and I started talking to them at the event. One guy in particular, Matt, I'm gonna butcher his name. I think his name is Desiderio, and they were talking about it. We talked about it a little bit, and they were just so enthusiastic about this, what I assumed was a dead format.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess for a few months after that, they continued to do little events at Nighthawk Cinema, which is in Williamsburg, for anybody who's sort of not in the New York area. And they were fun. They would have like a little trivia thing, and they would have it was fun, and I liked talking to them, and I was just fascinated by people still love this thing. And one of the things about me is that I am fascinated by the things that other people are fascinated by, which is sort of a weird thing to be interested in.
No, I get it. You're like, why? At first, maybe you're like, why do people like this? Or like that band that's all Harry Potter songs or whatever. You're like, how the fuck is this a thing? And
is that a thing? Because that's fascinating. That's wonderful.
Yeah. No,
I love that. I love that because, I mean, I'm a big comic book nerd, but I'm not like a dress up like the characters thing. But I love that people do that because people do amazing things with cosplay. Or even, like, I'm definitely not like an anime guy. Like, I don't get it. Mm-hmm. But I love that people do it. I love that people dress up like that. And I love that people still collect and buy and watch and VHS tapes. And so I kept in touch with these guys, but it's stuck in my back of my head that, like, there are people that collect VHS tapes. And then about 2013, two documentaries came out. One called Rewind This, which is just about the history of VHS.
Right. Yep.
And I got in touch with one of the guys from that who actually moved from Texas, where they originally shot a lot of that stuff, here to Brooklyn. And then also another one called Adjust Your Tracking, which is sort of spread across the East Coast. But Matt Desiderio, who did the I'm sure I'm butchering his name, I apologize. But
he did the screening.
He's a production. He was a producer of it as well, and he's in it. And that one's just about VHS collectors, and I thought that was, and I bought it. I watched it. It's fascinating. Mm-hmm. Just that people are so into this. It's so into it to the point where one particular film that's very rare, I guess, is called Tales from the Quad Dead Zone. Went for $660 on eBay a few years ago, and this is amazing.
Well, that's an important thing too, is to look at what they sold for, not what people are asking.
Yeah,
because you'll see, $1,000 on something, but you're like, okay, but did they get that?
No.
But the fact that it went for $650,
and that became a thing that I was so fascinated by.
Yeah,
it became I decided to make it a plot point in our film Meme, which some of the characters are VHS collectors, because after I went to those events, I thought, this is so interesting. I want to make that's so interesting. That's so unique. I want to make that a piece in one of the films that I make. So and it became part of it.
Now, the title Meme. So I was poking around your website and I saw there was a TED Talk you posted about the origin of Meme. Mm-hmm. And I have to claim ignorance on that. I'm like, Meme, most of those things on the internet with the text on the picture. Sorry, I did a Southern accent, Ken. I apologize. I did an impression of you. I think that's what it was.
I have no idea.
Okay.
I was looking at something else.
Ken was having a side conversation. No, I'm kidding. But no, this TED Talk was pretty amazing in sort of describing Meme, the origin of Meme, and all that. And so what, just tell me about the idea of posting that and what that meant.
So, memetics is interesting to me because what it's about is about, a lot of people talk about, if you've been involved in filmmaking in the last probably 6 to 10 years almost, people talk about viral video. Mm-hmm. They talk about memes and they talk about all this stuff. And what they talk about doesn't even necessarily make sense, because what it is memetics, which was originally the term meme was invented by Richard Dawkins, the evolutionary scientist. What it's all about is about how ideas, like just an idea, roots itself in the human consciousness and sort of spreads. Like something as simple as a shirt. Shirts are a meme. It's how it spreads and it grows, and it's viral ideas, and not in the sense of, you know,
a YouTube sensation.
Yeah, YouTube sensation, exactly. It's not in that sense, although that's very much the same thing. It's just
it's anything, right?
It's anything.
Like we're all wearing the same
You're wearing a hat right now.
Yep.
But the very idea of a hat is a meme, because somebody saw, oh, if I put a thing on my head, you know, I'm warmer, I cover up, you know, being bald or whatever it is.
Or, you know,
And that spreads, and the way it spreads is very, very much why we say viral video, why we say anything. It spreads a lot like a virus, in that it goes into somebody else's head, and then that person, through their own experience, through their own ideas, through their own whatever, changes it. You know, you have. I'm just using you as an example. I'm looking at you because you're wearing a baseball cap and it has a bill and it has, but. You know, before that there were ones that there were hats that went all the way around. There are skull caps. There are cowboy hats. There's all that. It's all the same thing, but it's got a little variation because of the all these things. And so meme, as far as the film is concerned, to just sort of actually go back to something that is an actual point, is in our film. The main character finds a videotape that's sort of all about a very specific set of ideas about the way the world works, about the way that people are, and that sort of grows in her head, and she kind of comes up with her own ideas about a thing, and then she goes and makes her own thing about it. She goes and makes her own video about it, and that's sort of where I started with was, one, I wanted to do something with the VHS thing because I thought it was fascinating, and two, I wanted to do something with this idea of memetics as it was originally sort of conceived by Richard Dawkins, where it was let's come up, people have ideas, and then let's but then that idea gets into somebody else's head and they make it their own, and then that spreads to other people, and it's a game of telephone, but I mean, it is really the game. Memetics is really about how the game of telephone works. You know, when you're in elementary school, or something like that.
I want to get Carolyn into the conversation. So
I know. I'm sorry.
Gosh, shut up, Sean.
Memetics is fascinating, but
I could go on about it.
So when do you come on board the project, or was it both of you from the very beginning, or how did that?
Well, Sean's been working on this for a while, but I had actually AD'd his last short film, Time Signature. And then after that wrapped, a couple months later, we met up for coffee, and he was, you know, we caught up, and he eventually mentioned this project that he was trying to do and put together for no budget, and, you know, just sort of stringing together as many resources and finding as many talented people as we could to make meme a reality. And that's when I first heard about the project, and he sent me the script, and got to sort of see meme as, you know, the movie, and start to work on it from there. But that's, yeah.
And so you guys have some of it shot, right?
We're technically in the middle of production right now.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've shot 9 days. We started in November, and just because of time restraints, and because we are trying to do this for as little money as possible, we've been shooting on weekends to work around people's schedules and use equipment. And so we started in November, and I've shot 9 days so far, and have about 9 more. No, not 9 more, probably like 6, 7, depending on how things sort of roll out from here.
That's great.